Here is the secret to ending your suffering. Trade your expectations for appreciation, and your whole life will change in that moment. The minute you appreciate something, your suffering is gone. It's just your expectations that are stressing you out. And sometimes not meeting your expectations will cause you to come up with a new way to grow, a new way to do something that's better than what you did before. What would your life be like if you made this decision today for real? Screw everything else. We've got a million other things we're going to do to improve your life. What if you really made a real decision? You say, I am not suffering anymore. Life is too short to suffer. I'm going to live in a beautiful state. I'm going to have a good time every day, no matter what. And I'm going to catch myself. I know I'll get off target for a minute, but I'll catch it and get right back in a beautiful state. The minute you stop complaining about your kids, but you look at the things you love in them, the minute you stop complaining about your partners and you think about what's a better way to get through them, it's just a chance for me to grow and expand. The minute you appreciate anything, your suffering is over. Because loss, less, and never is always a lie. You don't lose something, you gain a new option. You aren't in a place where you can never do it again except when you believe that shit. Because whatever you believe, you're gonna live. A new set of appreciations and suffering is over. Remember, there's an old phrase, it says, don't sweat the small stuff. And the second rule is, it's all small stuff, right? What would life be like if all the things you get frustrated by or stressed about or worried about, if you just wouldn't indulge in them anymore? If you started to, you catch it within 30 seconds or less and snap out of it and find yourself focusing on something you could appreciate or something you'd love or something you're grateful for or someone you love. If you were to train your mind and heart and body to live in a beautiful state every day, no matter what, how much more magnificent would your life be? How much more joy would fill your body? Because when you're grateful, suffering disappears, doesn't it? You can't be angry and grateful simultaneously. They don't go together. Every problem is temporary. Only your soul is permanent.
We always paint a fucked up reality that's not even true. It's reality what we think is true because our lives aren't what we want it to be. I realized that God wasn't gonna give me a get out of jail free card. And from the time I was born and to the time I was 19 years old, my life had these hurdles. I constantly hit obstacles, obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And I had to figure out how to manage suffering, how to deal with it, because it'd be part of my life forever. At least that's what I thought. So in order to deal with it, I had to be able to conquer it and overcome it and deal with it and know that in this suffering, there has to be some kind of growth. With every obstacle, I look at it as friction now. Without friction, there is no growth. You have to have friction in your life to grow. So I started looking at all these different things versus the woe is me mentality. Like, oh my God, look at my life's so fucked up. I come from this fucked up family. I'm being beaten, I'm being abused mentally, physically. I started looking at it as the perfect trial ground. So I had to flip it upside down and say, okay, I'm suffering tremendously, mentally. Use this to your advantage versus your disadvantage. So that's what I did. Versus looking at it as like, oh my God, woe is me, I'm never gonna get out of here. I looked at it as, okay, hang on a second. If I can overcome this, if I can find some power in this, some way to get through this, that right there will be the fuel for the rest of my life. And so I found great strength in suffering. Great strength in it because why? Through all of that, it started to callous my mind over the victim's mentality. This whole thing about suffering, yeah, it sucks really bad, really, really bad. But we all live on this side of suffering. On this side, this nice box that's very comfortable, that we know when everything's gonna happen. We're in it, it's good. We know how everything's gonna turn out. It's those few people who are willing to go on this side of suffering. And once they get through that, ask him how he feels now. His mind, how far he grew. In that short period of time, he grew so much more than a normal person because he was willing to go outside himself. Because on the other end of suffering is greatness. It's not over here. So a whole bunch of us, we put ourselves in this great box. And in that box, there's no suffering in it. So what we do is we shelter ourselves from greatness. So for me, for instance, I was 300 damn pounds at one time in my life. Spray for cockroaches, made $1,000 a month. I was living in that box. I would sometimes look over the box and I saw hell, suffering, storms, avalanches, tornadoes. I don't want to go over there, but I knew if I can get through that shit mentally, on the other side was a 185-pound person who's a Navy SEAL, went through Ranger School. Only person to do this, only person to do that, only person to do this. But that's through all of that shit. All that shit I had to go through. So you peek over the box and you go back in and say, oh, I'm okay being 300 pounds, making $1,000 a month. Right. I'm okay over here. And on the other side is where you start to really start your journey. People think they start their journey because they're born. No, there's a lot of people in graves who have lived 100 years and have never started their real journey. Your real journey starts when you go outside that box and you start climbing mountains. You start climbing mountains. And you think you're at the top of the mountain, you go down the other side of it, think I'm here, and you look up, fuck, there's another fucking mountain. And it goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. And just when you're getting ready to quit, you crest that final mountain, you get down and you look, and there you are. And it starts to make sense to you then. It doesn't make sense to you until you get outside that fucking box. I'll talk to so many fucking people, and what I say is not for everybody. So many people don't have any clue on what the fuck I'm saying because they're in this box, and it's their brain. You first must go through suffering to find that great peace we're all looking for. A lot of us want to have, there's a lot of books out there about this 5 steps. Do this, do this, do this, get there. No, man, it's not that easy. To find real, permanent peace and enlightenment, you must go to the dark side of who you are. I could have easily just shoved my whole life under a rug and went straight to peace. Are you happy there? You overcame nothing. You jumped hell, you skipped hell, you forego this part of your life, you skip it and go right to peace. So you always have this thing back here that's haunting you, and that's that darkness. You must go into the darkness to truly find that light that you're looking for, because that's what's on the other side of that. People get it all wrong, man. You have to face suffering. You have to face this dark side, this darkness. And there's a lot of energy in there. There's a lot of goodness in there that you can use to find greatness. But you cannot find your peace you're looking for in yourself until you've overcome yourself. I think that when you die, this is just my own mindset, that you arrive in line. It helps me to get past a lot of things. You arrive in line, and let's say you're in front, let's say you die right before me, and you're in line, and God's sitting there with the clipboard, okay? Sitting there with the clipboard, like me and you're sitting right now. He's looking at you, and he says, hey, you made it to heaven, good job, okay? And then he shows you the clipboard of what your life should have been. So you live this life that you thought you pushed so hard. Then you look at the clipboard. Let's say myself, this is now me, I'm talking about myself now. And let's say I got to heaven weighing 300 pounds. I was a guy that worked for Ecolab, was a guy that kills cockroaches for a living, which is fine, it's a job. But then I look at this, and that's how I died. I look at this, and it says on here where I should have been, because God's all-knowing, right? I look at this, and it said you should have been 185 pounds, you should have broke Guinness Book of World Records, you should have been a Navy SEAL, you should have been this, you should have been that, you should have lived this great life, you should have been an inspiration, you should have inspired millions. And then you get the clipboard back to God. Let's say you lived 80 years on earth, and now you realize that you lived here being a shell of who the fuck you should have been. Now you're in heaven. But are you really in heaven? Because now you see how much you fucking left down there on earth. The root cause of the quitter isn't that you can't do 100 fucking push-ups. You can train anybody to do that. The root cause of the quitter is when you get in hell, you can't process it. It's too much to process. Because your mind starts going back to the real reality of like, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough. It's not trained. So I started training this, realizing that the only thing that makes me quit is not the muscle fatigue, it's the mental fatigue that makes me quit everything in life. So I became a practitioner of the mind. The mind's a very powerful thing. It has a tactical advantage over you all the time. It knows your fears, it knows your insecurities, it knows where you don't want to go. So it will guide you away from that. And that's why the mind will always win until you reprogram it. It will always win until you fucking reprogram it. Because the mind controls you. Why is that? It's your fucking mind. It's your mind. Because all those things that happen to you in your life, all those bad things, all those things that you blame other people for, they're now yours to own. You got to figure out a way to reprogram your mind to get outside the box.